You may be seated. The court is now back in session. We will hand the floor to Kills Pond's defense to continue putting questions to this witness. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, witness. Let me introduce myself once again because we only saw each other very briefly a few days ago. So my name is Antaguisse and I am the International Defense Counsel of Mr. Kyosampan. And last time we met, we were speaking about the distrust felt towards intellectuals returning from abroad. Now I would like to turn to another topic. You spoke about, during your testimony, you spoke about your ex-wife, Miss Laurence Pic. And with the leave of the President, I would like to revisit one of your prior statements, indexed D154.2. That is to say D154.2. This is your comments on your revolutionary biography. In French, the ERN is 00290-739. I will say again in French, ERN 00290-739. English 00826-586. And in Khmer, I believe that it covers 2 pages, 00824-637 and 00824-4638. And with the President's leave, can we please provide the French, the paper copy of the French version to the witness? And can we display the Khmer version on the monitor with the assistance of the court officer?
You may proceed, court officer. Could you deliver the hard copy document for the witness examination?
So I'm going to read out in French of the excerpt that I would like to focus on. And you write, a problem of the same order would make Laurence suffer a lot many years later. And you speak about Laurence Pic. In October 1975, she was purely and simply expelled from a seminar that was organized for the members of the FUNC after arriving from China. And the order then came from Kyosampan. So we can perfectly understand that Laurence had a sufficient reason to feel a lot of rancor towards the Khmer Rouge leaders. So my question is the following. Witness, were you present during this seminar, during this FUNC seminar?
At that time, I was not present. However, I can recall that I was outside that school.
If you were not present, what leads you to say that the decision to expel her from the seminar came from Que Sampan? Did she tell you that he was the one behind that decision?
At that time, I was near the door to the meeting hall, and I was with Tunjit Saran, who was my colleague, and who was actually managing that workshop. I saw Laurent Page coming out from the workshop with her tears, and Saran and I saw that Saran and I were in the Maxi-Seleni circle, and we witnessed that.
Thank you for this clarification, witness. My question, however, was who told you that the decision to expel Laurence Pic from the meeting or to not allow her to attend the seminar, who told you that this order came from Que Sampan, as you wrote?
Nobody told me. At that time, Que Sampan was the presenter in that workshop. So there could be nobody else who would decide to exclude Laurent Page besides the sole presenter in that workshop.
So, if I understood properly, witness, this is something that you are concluding.
Yes, that's my conclusion.
Thank you. Now, I would like to move on to another topic. You said often during your testimony, or you spoke often about this notion of secrecy, this notion of confidentiality, and you told us that you were only focusing on what you had to focus on. Can you tell us where this rule of secrecy came from?
The principle of maintaining secrecy was one of the most important principles of the Communist Party of Cambodia. The CPK always instructed us that maintaining confidentiality guarantees half a victory.
And concretely speaking, as far as your duties as department leader at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, would you select the information that you would transmit to your colleagues or to your subordinates?
Mr. President, I'd like the Council to clarify her question a bit further.
Il n'y a pas de...
That's not a problem, witness. You just spoke about the importance of secrecy. So what I would like to know is whether you followed this rule of secrecy in your professional activities. Was there some information that you did not share with your colleagues or with your subordinates?
I can put it this way. Giving information to someone, in particular to subordinates, was the case. However, based on the party's lines, as a party member, we should not conceal information with our superior or the leadership. We shall transmit such information to the superior, which would be a testimony of our loyalty to the Communist Party of Cambodia.
Yes, indeed, witness. But my question was vis-à-vis your colleagues and vis-à-vis your subordinates. Did you not retain any information from them?
I can say that as a general principle, I must withhold some information within the framework of my responsibility, and that I shall not transmit such information to my subordination. That was the principle, but in practice it was not that clear-cut.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you for this clarification. And when you were answering the co-prosecutor's questions, you said during your testimony that you worked as an interpreter for Mr. Kyosompon. In particular, when foreign diplomats were being accredited. And if I understood your testimony properly, you were working as an interpreter, as a French interpreter. So my question is the following. Mr. Kyosompon speaks perfect French. So why did he use an interpreter for these purposes? Was it just a matter of protocol, or was there another reason?
As I understand, Khmer language is the language of the nation and of the state. For that reason, the communication with foreign countries or representatives, we, as Cambodian peoples, we shall use the Khmer language. And that was one of the main principles of the CPK. However, it does not mean that if I did not provide the correct interpretation, and as Kyosompon, who knew French, the French language, he would be able to correct it.
So if I understood your testimony well, what you're saying is that Mr. Kyosompon would speak in Khmer because that was the language, the state language, even if he spoke French. So vis-à-vis foreign diplomats, he was required to speak Khmer. Is that so? Is that what I must understand from your testimony?
Let me clarify that that was the principle of the Democratic Cambodia, that is the Khmer language shall be used as it was the national language. This does not necessarily mean that a leader who knew a foreign language could not use it. I can give you a real example. I used to interpret for Nuon Chia, who was receiving the diplomat representative from Laos. The Laos diplomat spoke in the Laos language, and I interpreted into French. But Nuon Chia, he spoke the Thai language, and he could understand the Laos language, so he spoke and responded in the Thai language. So it was flexible and changes according to the real situation.
But if I understand your testimony well, the leaders, whether the leaders spoke a foreign language or not, they were always accompanied by an interpreter. Is that true, or am I mistaken?
Yes, as usual, the state leaders or the party's leaders, when they meet with foreign guests, there had to be an interpreter on the Cambodian side. And when there was a meeting between the Laos or the Chinese or the Vietnamese groups, they would also have their own respective interpreter. So each party would have an interpreter, and that was the normal practice within the diplomatic communication.
Thank you for this clarification, witness. President, with your leave, I wish now to show another document to the witness, and this is a written record of interview of 6 May 2009, indexed E3/42, and also under index D167. And the excerpt I wish to focus on for the moment is French ERN 00327226, English ERN 00327216, Khmer ERN 00327205. And with the assistance of the court officer, I would like to provide the Khmer paper copy to the witness so that he may follow my questioning more easily.
Court officer, could you assist in delivering the document from the counsel to the witness?
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, Do you have the excerpt before you? I will read it out to you. Read out the passage I would like to focus on. This is your second answer to the investigators of the OCIJ. And the investigators ask you to comment on a passage from your biography in which you bring up Que Sampan. And here you answer, what I wrote concerns the period when I met Que Sampan in Paris. He was better known for his human qualities, his kindness, and simplicity than for his political commitment. He was seen by the Khmer Rouge more as a tactical than strategic force. So my question is as follows. Can you explain the difference between a tactical force and a strategic force? And can you tell us what this meant specifically regarding Que Sampan?
The tactical force related to overall intellectuals, in particular those who went to study in France and those who joined the Marxist-Leninist circle. The CPK back then needed those intellectuals in order to represent their appearance and as a force to gather more masses, popular masses, as they were more effective than ordinary students. And those intellectuals, or they were known as the red intellectuals, were good in their study and they were gentle and had a respect for the elders, and they were generous and helpful to the rest and to other students. And that would be considered as the igniting force or the supporting force, which is different from the strategic force. They would be turned into a strategic force when they could themselves be in the country, change their status and mentality to become a proletarian state or the labor class. Then they would become the strategic force and stay forever with the party and the CPK. So those people who refashioned themselves and who had the proletarian view as the view expressed by the workers would be considered that they transform themselves into a strategic force.
Thank you for your clarification. And I wish now to continue with this same page. And you continue speaking about Que Sampan, and you say he was put at the head of the presidium because he fulfilled certain criteria. He was a doctor in economics. He was calm and self-controlled. But in 1975 and later, he essentially played a figurative role. He did what the party required of him, but he was not one of the leaders with real power, contrary to the members of the party's standing committee. And I will stop here. So my question is the following. Can you tell the chamber what kind of experience you had in this regard? What you saw that allows you to come up with this assertion, that is to say that Que Sampon only had a figurative role?
President witness, please wait. The prosecution, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's just here a question of methodology. The answer was read out in its totality, but the end of the last sentence was dropped. So maybe out of respect for the other defense teams, but still, the sentence reads as follows. The members of the party's standing committee, like Nguyen Chia and Yang Sari. So I think that the defense should quote the entire sentence and not only pick out what it is interested in and leave out 5 words from the quote. Thank you very much.
Monsieur le Président.
President, if I may answer, I must say that I'm quite surprised by the co-prosecutor's objection, because a few days ago, the civil party lawyer also read part of the book of the previous witness and focused on the points that it wished to focus on, the points it had questions about, and I did not see the co-prosecutor stand up, and now I am examining the witness, and I'm examining the witness on the topics that I wish to focus on. So if the prosecutor wishes to put questions in regard to this segment, he could have done so when it was his turn. So if possible, could the witness answer and explain to us what allows him to tell us that Que Sampon only had a figurative role on the basis of his experience back then. And again, I'd like to stress the importance of your experience, because you will remember that in the questions that were put to you prior, we insisted a lot upon what you lived through, and that's what we would like to concentrate on.
President, the objection is not valid. Witness, can you respond to the question put to you by Que Sampon's counsel?
I would like to clarify as follows. At the time, we, in our capacity as the party members who were educated overseas, particularly in the country that once colonized Cambodia, we understood that our personality trait, our mentality, and our view were the obstacles to becoming good party members. We were not resented at that time that Communist Party of Cambodia, whether the Communist Party of Cambodia consider us as strategic force or not, but we wanted to only contribute to our country, and we were very dedicated that we would sacrifice everything, including our life, for the party and for the revolutionary causes and for the people. I did not know whether brothers and other friends understood this sentiment or not, but I understood it very well to myself, even if the party considered me as a traitor or a patriot. I would accept it. It depended on the party's decision. But I myself believe that the party would judge me better than I judge myself, because I was involved with the concepts and mentalities of the West, and I believe in the judgment of the party, and because of this firm belief in the party that we could succeed in the 17th of April 1975. And as for Mr. Kyew Sampon, I knew him very clearly that he had explained the position, his position and his dedication and conviction about that very clearly. He did not demand or ask for any role or leadership role or so in the party, and he submitted himself to the party, and it was up to the party to judge whether or not he was capable to handle any certain assignments the party designated to him. And at that time, Mr. Kyew Sampon believed, like others, believed in the leadership of Communist Party of Cambodia. And before 1975, the Communist Party of Cambodia decided, the Communist Party of Cambodia had achieved remarkably for the national cause. That those achievements convinced us to submit ourselves to the party. And as I explained in my earlier testimony, that in the morning I would go to interpret for Mr. Kyew Sampon in his capacity as the president of the State Presidium, who received credential presentation by the ambassador of Albania to Cambodia. And then in the afternoon, I also interpreted for the doctors who went to examine the health status of the ambassador's wife. And I actually, in terms of the position or so of Mr. Kyew Sampon was as ordinary as the wife of ambassadors and other people as well. That's why his interpreter also went there simply to examine the health condition of ordinary people.
Thank you for these clarifications, witness. Apart from his functions, which consisted in receiving foreign diplomats, do you know whether Mr. Kyew Sampon discharged other duties?
That I do not know.
Je voudrais vous...
I would like to read out to you again a passage from your statement. And it is still on page 5, so the references are the same. And this is what you said in answer to the following question. The question was put to you by investigators of the OCIJ, who asked you the following question. What form of contact did you have with Kyew Sampon from 1975 to 1979? And your answer was as follows. I met him occasionally, for instance, when he received credentials from ambassadors, but we never had the chance for a real discussion. He was busy with other things such as buying medicines and spare parts, etc. abroad. My question in light of this part of your answer is as follows. How did you know that he had other duties such as purchasing medicines and spare parts abroad?
I learned about that because of a friend of mine. He is deceased now. He was Van Rit. He was the former chairman of the Commerce Committee. In other words, he was the Minister of Foreign Trade. He told me about that.
Je vous remercie de cette précision.
Thank you for this clarification. Let me continue with the same paragraph, and this will be my last question. You subsequently state that later I lived with him and Pol Pot in 1981 and 1982, and I noticed that his role was zero. Under the tripartite government constitution, Pol Pot made all the decisions. Here again, witness, are you making these statements because you had acquired some experience in this area, or where did you get this information? And in Khmer, the reference is 003272206.
On this particular issue, I am pretty sure because in 1981 and 1982, I was the representative of the Communist Party of Cambodia in the movement to establish the tripartite negotiation, and I negotiated with the representative of Samdech Sihanouk and the representative sent by Sơn San faction. I was the one who traveled from the office of the Central Party Center of the Communist Party of Cambodia from area known as 105 all the way to Bangkok. And as for the record of the negotiation, I kept it and reported it to Pol Pot. And Pol Pot instructed me personally to prepare the substance of the negotiation before negotiating with other parties. Khieu Samphan was nearby as well at that time, but Pol Pot never called Khieu Samphan to the meeting. Pol Pot decided all by himself, and he instructed me to convey all the necessary message from the Democratic Cambodia to the negotiation held in Bangkok. We had to report on a regular basis once every 2 days until the negotiation was finally achieved in Singapore on the 4th of October 1981 to establish the tripartite coalition among the Democratic Cambodia and the forces loyal to Prince Sihanouk and the forces loyal to Sơn San faction.
Monsieur le témoin, je vous remercie.
Witness, thank you very much for answering my questions. Mr. President, this brings my cross-examination of the witness to an end.
President, thank you. Now I hand over the floor to the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia to put question to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Mr. Soon Sukun, thank you for being with us today, and I understand it's been a long period of waiting for you, but we appreciate you being here today to answer some more questions. And my first question relates to your sources of knowledge. There will be some general questions about things you may have read since 1979. And my first question is, since 1979, have you read any books that relate to the regime of democratic Cambodia? And if so, could you give us some names?
Mr. President, may I ask you, may I ask that the defense be more specific, because in terms of books, I have read a lot of books. So I would like to suggest that the defense be more precise in the question. Once it is too broad, I find it hard to respond.
I understand that. I'll try to be more precise. Have you, Mr. Witness, read books that deal specifically with the period of 1975 until 1979 when the Khmer Rouge was in power in Cambodia?
In general, I read only important books, and oftentimes I do not remember the titles of the books. For example, books written by Professor David Chandler, by Ben Kiernan, by Philip Short, and other books by other writers. But as for now, I cannot recall the authors of those books.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. That is a clear answer. And just to be absolutely sure, you just mentioned that you did read books by David Chandler, Philip Short, and Ben Kiernan. Is that how I understand your answer?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Do you still read newspapers, like these days?
Since I had heart surgery, I found it difficult reading newspaper. I could not concentrate on the newspaper for longer than 10 minutes. Consequently, I have rarely read newspapers, but I have listened to radio broadcast.
That would indeed have been my following question, because you have spoken about those radio broadcasts here in court. So could you name a few of the radio stations that you currently listen to?
Normally, I listen to FM 102, the Women's Media Center, which was broadcast live with other radio station, and I listen to the Voice of America, the of French International Radio, and Voice of America, and Australian channel as well. And I also watch TV like CTN and the newly established CNC. And other than that, I also watched BBC and New Asia and TV5 of France.
Thank you. And when you listen to those radio stations, do you also listen to reports that deal with this tribunal, the proceedings before this tribunal?
I follow the proceeding here as well, but due to my poor health, I normally listen to the radio at night, and sometimes I fell asleep in the middle of the broadcast. I could not really cover the complete program of the broadcast.
Thank you for that clarification. A slightly different topic is the following. You have had to wait for a long time to give testimony here before this chamber, and other witnesses sometimes have to wait as well. And my question to you is, while you are waiting to give your testimony before this chamber in the past week or by now weeks, did you meet any of the other people that have to give testimony before this court?
I have met because at that times I was in Malay, and the gentleman who, Mr. Pipun, by the name of Pipun, who came a bit earlier, I consider him as my younger brother as well, because we have had a lot of fond memories of our past. And when he came to testify before this chamber, he phoned me, and I met with him. I met him in Santepip Hotel near Wat Kah Pagoda. And at that time, there was an official from the witness support section. I did not discuss much at that time. I did not want to, or I did not intend to hire my intention or so, but the motivation to meet him was to ask him what the likely questions to be asked in the court, so that I could be well prepared. Because I knew that after his testimony, I would be summoned to testify before this court as well.
Thank you for that elaborate answer, and perhaps I will come back to this issue at a later stage. Now I would like to move to a more substantive topic, and that is the funk and the grunk, or the funk and the grunk. And I want to start my questioning in the year 1971. You have stated that you became a full member of the party in 1971. Do you remember the exact date?
If my memory serves me well, it was just one day before the birth date of Prince Norodom Sihanouk. It was on the 30th of October, 1971.
And you have stated earlier that perhaps Kit Chun vouched for your membership. Do you remember what his position in the party was at that time when you were when you became a member of the party?
When I joined the party, at that time, Mr. Chun Prasad and Mr. Kiet Chun vouched for me at that time as the principal. If you wanted to become a party member, you had to be vouched for by at least 2 members. And Mr. Kiet Chun was a member of the Communist Party of Cambodia at the time.
I understand that Kiet Chun was a member of the Communist Party, but did he hold any special role? Did he have any special position in the party at that time?
Back then, in the party, it was a flat organization. There was no position. And Mr. Ieng Sari was the leader of the party, and the secretary of the party, if I knew it correctly, was Madame Sieng An, who was the Cambodian ambassador to Hanoi in the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. And her husband was the secretary of the party. That's what I can recall, but as for other members, they did not have any portfolio or position to hold at that time.
Then, Mr. President, with your permission, I would like to show a document on the screen. It is document number D313/1.2.267. English ERN is 00419033240. French ERN is 0077445 until 57. And then the Khmer ERN is 00738 until 65. And with your permission, I would like to show the first page on the screen. I think the Khmer version might be most appropriate, and we can provide the witness with a hard copy both in English and Khmer.
President, you may proceed. Court officer, please obtain the document from the counsel and hand it over to the witness for his examination.
And while the witness reads, I will explain what this document is. This document is a telegram by the American Embassy in Phnom Penh, dated September 30, 1971, and it was sent to the Department of State in Washington. And on the first page, the opening is, and I quote, "The following is our most current compilation, principally from FIBIS reports, of the names and identities associated with the Funk Grunk. We have acquired some biographic data on the nature of the contrived character of this organization. Most of the second rank of members listed below are known as anti-Sihanouk and Khmer Rouge, and in several cases are out-and-out communists. The balance has apparently shifted from the Sihanouk entourage to the Khmer communists, if indeed Sihanouk has ever had control. Of the 40 names listed, at least 9 were among 34 persons publicly described as leftists, extreme leftists, and subversives in 1962, and as such were dared by the prince to form a government. The 9 indicated have asterisks after their names. The gradual increase in the number of young students to Peking also indicates that GKR has a long way to go to gain complete control and influence over the Khmer student population abroad." That is the introduction on page 1 of this telegram. And then if we move to the following page with English ERN I will. English ERN 004190338 and Khmer ERN 00738-363. It can also be displayed on the screen. Then, under number 30 of this telegram, we see your name, Mr. Sekun, and you are identified as a member of the FUNC Central Committee. Now, my question is the following. This is a telegram by the American Embassy in Phnom Penh to the Department of State in Washington, so you have not seen this telegram before. But my question to you, Mr. Sun Sekun, is the following. Is this information correct? By September 1971, were you a member of the FUNC Central Committee?
Yes, that information is correct because I was the members of the FUNC Central Committee of the National United Front of Cambodia, and I was also the secretary of the Central Committee, FUNC Central Committee.
Thank you. And if we go back a few pages to the page with English ERN 00419035 and with Khmer ERN 00738-360. There we see under number 13 the following, and I quote, Keith Chun, Secretary of the FUNC Politburo, Minister Delegate to the Prime Minister. And my question, I'll wait until you've found the relevant passage. And my question to you, Mr. Sun Sekun, apologies. My question is this information correct? In September 1971 was Mr. Ketchun the Secretary of the FUNC Politburo and was a minister delegate to the Prime Minister.
Yes, that information is accurate.
And can you explain to us what the FUNC Politburo did? What was its role?
I am not that certain. However, that Politburo, under the chairmanship of Samdech Panut, who was overseas, most of the tasks dealing with this Politburo was to deal with the issues abroad, not the internal issues.
And as Minister Delegate to the Prime Minister, do you know what Kate Chun's role was?
In his capacity, I would say that he usually acted as a representative on behalf of others to receive dignitaries, to attend the reception as the ones organized by the Chinese.
Thank you. And
President, thank you, witness and counsel. The time is appropriate for today's adjournment. We will adjourn today's hearing now and resume tomorrow morning, that is 15 August 2012, starting from 9 a.m. And we will continue to hear the testimony of Sung Si Kun, who will continue to be questioned by the same defense team. And in the afternoon, we might hear the testimony of another witness, that is TCW 609, who will be initially questioned by the bench. Mr. Sung Si Kun, the hearing of your testimony has not yet concluded, and you are invited to return tomorrow morning. Likewise, the duty counsel, you are invited to return tomorrow morning as well. The court officer, could you assist the witness in coordination with Wisu for his return to his residence and have him return tomorrow morning prior to 9 a.m. Security guards, you are instructed to take the accused back to the detention facility and have them return to the courtroom tomorrow morning prior to 9 a.m. The court is now adjourned.
សូមក្រោកឈរ